Chapter 62. A Quilt, Not a Blanket. Orestes Lorenzo Perez, a Cuban military pilot, stepped into his Soviet-built jet fighter plane and flew towards the United States. He was risking his life, but he believed the risk was worthwhile. He wanted to live in a land that was free. Lorenzo kept his plane low, just over the water, so it would not be detected by radar. There was no way his wife, Victoria, and his sons, Raniel and Alejandro, would go with him. "Don't worry," he told his wife. "I'll come back for you." As soon as he arrived in the United States, Orestes Lorenzo Perez tried to get his family out of Cuba. He tried all the legal means. He lobbied members of Congress. He founded an organization called Parents for Freedom, but nothing worked. His wife and children were hostages of Fidel Castro, Cuba's dictator. Castro would not let them out of the country. In the meantime, Lorenzo became part of the flourishing Cuban-American community. He learned to fly American planes and became a licensed American pilot. He came up with the plane, and he got a secret message to his wife. The message told of a spot on the highway near a beach. Then he borrowed a plane and called his wife on the telephone. They spoke of children's clothing, of his father, of the sunset. It was all a code. He said, "I'll send money to buy a TV." "Already?" she asked, startled. Those code words meant he was coming the next day. He needed to know exactly when the sun set in Cuba. He asked about the children's shoe sizes. She said they were 5.5 and 6.5. The sun set between 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. The next day, Victoria packed a lunch, and she and the boys went to the beach. They spread out their towels and sat down. 2 policemen were nearby. Victoria had brought a Bible. She read it. She tried to look like any other her mother, out for a day on the beach with her children. But Raniel, who was 11, wanted to go home. He didn't want to swim. She hadn't told the boys of the plans. "Go swim," she whispered. "This is a matter of life and death." Raniel knew something important was happening. He swam. At 5 o'clock, casually, they got up to leave. At 5:45, they were standing beside the highway when they saw a plane landing 2 blocks away. "Run! Run!" said Victoria. "It's Daddy!" The plane missed a car, a bus, a huge rock, and a traffic sign. It came to a stop about 10 yards from a truck. The startled driver managed to hit his brakes just in time. The plane's pilot, Orestes Lorenzo, stayed on the ground for about 40 seconds, which was enough time to pick up his wife and boys. Then he turned the plane around and took off. He had told his wife, in the secret message, not to talk or hug him. He would need all of his powers and concentration. 21 minutes and 43 seconds later, he shouted out, "We did it!" They were in United States territory. It was December 1992, and they were free. Bang Lee's mother shook his head. He got up sleepily. 2 strange men were in his house. Bang Hai, who was 7 years old, was soon squeezed beside his 14-year-old sister in a small, open boat with 50 other Vietnamese. Out at sea, they were attacked by pirates who took their few possessions. They were lucky. They made it to Indonesia, and 6 months later to the United States. 4 years after that, when Bang Hai had almost forgotten the Vietnamese language, his parent, his grandmother, his younger sister, and his 2 brothers all joined him in America. The Lorenzos and the Leys were part of a long immigrant tradition in America. It began tens of thousands of years ago, when the first immigrants came from Asia, on foot, or by dog sled, or in small boats. The people spread out over the 2 great American continents. Then, just 500 years ago, an eye blink in the long view of time, new immigrants arrived from lands across the Atlantic Ocean. It was a meeting of two worlds. Each had been unaware of the other. At first, those who settled in the region that became the United States came mostly from Great Britain, England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, and from Africa. The Africans came unwillingly. They were forced to become workers in a society that needed them badly. A new nation was founded, the United States of America. It was an unusual nation, a nation of free citizens, except, of course, for those who were slaves. In a world that was mostly unfree, it was born with the idea that people could govern themselves. It was a democracy. Freedom and the opportunities of a big, rich land were like a magnet. People came. Lots of different people came. Many, like many of the English before them, were failures or outcasts in their old world. Comfortable people don't usually leave their homes. No matter where they all came from, everyone wanted all the freedoms and rights that are in the U.S. Constitution. They wanted to be Americans, but some of them, being human, became jealous of the next group of newly arriving immigrants. So, when the 19th century began to turn into the 20th, and more new people came, this time speaking Italian and Polish and Russian and Greek and Turkish and Yiddish. The earlier immigrants worried. They said the newcomers would never learn English. They said they were outcasts. All that had been said before, and much of it was true. But they had forgotten that in America, something happened when people were given the opportunity and freedom. The new immigrants worked hard. They invented. They built. They achieved. They learned. Soon, those people from Southern and Eastern Europe were successful Americans and the old-timers themselves. Then, near the end of the 20th century, another group of new immigrants began arriving. Many spoke Spanish. Some people worried that they wouldn't bother to learn English, that the United States would become a two-language nation. But it wasn't likely. Their children were like all the children before them, eager to learn. It was the same with Asians, who now arrived in force. Until 1965, laws restricted Asian immigration. The Asians, like Bang Hai-Li and his family, were searching for opportunity and freedom. They would find it. People came from Africa now because they wanted to be Americans, and, like all the immigrants who had arrived before them, they brought talent and energy. Other African Americans, whose ancestors had been in America for a long, long time, were finally permitted to achieve success in large numbers. Civil rights laws had opened doors to schools and jobs that for too long had been shut. Jesse Jackson, a 20th century political leader, said that America is not like a blanket, one piece of unbroken cloth, the same color, the same texture, the same size. America is more like a quilt, many pieces, many colors, many sizes, all woven and held together by a common thread. The United States counts its citizens every 10 years when it takes a census or poll of the population. That's when we get to see the threads and colors that make up the American quilt and compare them with quilts of the past. In 1820, which was the first year the United States kept statistics on immigration, 8,395 foreigners entered the country with the intention of becoming citizens. Most were English, Scotch-Irish, or German, but they also included 20 Danes, 14 Russians, 6 Asians, 5 Poles, and 1 Mexican. The 2000 census was the first in which Americans could list themselves as multiracial, but only if they wanted to. Nearly 7 million people took that option. That's 2.4% of the nation. The Hispanic population more than doubled in the 10 years between 1990 and 2000, making Hispanics at 35.3 million, about equal in number to the African Americans. By 2001, Hispanics had become the nation's largest minority. The 21st century's first census told us there were 281.4 million people in the United States. It showed the largest number growth in our history. We added 32.7 million between 1990 and 2000. Many industrial nations had declining birth rates and populations in those same years. We're adding one person every 14 seconds, or about 6,300 every day. Of that daily gain, about 4,400 came from the larger number of births than deaths in the U.S., 10,600 over 6,200. The rest of the increase came from immigration. We added one immigrant every 35 seconds, and one person left the country every 3 minutes. The population increased in every state, from 0.5% in North Dakota to 66% in Nevada. Here are some of the things we learned from the 2000 census. People were moving back to cities. A few years ago, they were fleeing them. 4 out of 5 Americans lived in cities or suburbs. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia, and Phoenix were our largest cities in the 2000 census. 8 of our 10 largest cities gained population. Only Philadelphia and Detroit shrank. The population center of the nation shifted 40 miles southwest from DeSoto, Missouri, in 1990 to Edgar Springs, Missouri, in 2000. If you imagine a flat map of the country and then have all 281.4 million Americans stand on it where they live and assume that they all weigh exactly the same, the spot where the map bounces is the population center. In 1790, the population center was in Charlestown, Maryland. It has moved steadily westward. Other things we learned. The West grew by 19.7%, the South by 17.3%, the Midwest by 7.9%, and the Northeast by 5.5%.